Are you surprised that the dollar isn't really breaking out now?
Yeah, look, that's certainly a key point, I think, to make here. You are right. When you look back at last week's run of data, we had, a number of key points. Richmond Fed Manufacturing Survey at a 6-year high. We had consumer sentiment, you touched on there, at a 16-year high. And obviously that upward revision in Q4 GDP, particularly the personal consumption side, I think is one to note. Look, we're tending to think that is a story that should continue to support the US dollar through next week. We'll be watching ISM, we'll be watching payrolls very closely, but our sense is that market pricing for June is probably a bit too skinny, 53%. We're forecasting the Fed to raise rates in June and December, and you look at the Fed speak that we had through this last week, particularly Charles Evans, normally a dove, suggesting 3, possibly 4 rate hikes this year. Those factors should continue to support US dollar. I like a bit of strength in dollar yen from these levels, and I think as we wander through next week, we see euro continuing to push lower, and I wouldn't be surprised to see euro pushing down below 105, possibly testing down as low as 104.
Now, if we just stay with the dollar for a moment, in terms of the pressure on the dollar, does some of this have to do with any sort of skepticism or doubts of whether or not Trump can actually push through some of his reforms after the health care bill failed?
Yeah, look, and I think that's a very good point. Sure, disappointment around the American Health Care Act feels as if it's beginning to subside, but definitely we are seeing more focus and more questions from our customers on this continuing resolution and what the pressure looks like as we come into the end of April. So while I suggest that we see a bit more US dollar strength, I think it's a window of opportunity for the US dollar to gain some ground, and I think as we move into April, and the increased focus on that issue will probably cap gains. So I think bottom line, it's probably more range trading for the US dollar rather than significant gains from current levels.